Napa know-how.
Any car brave enough to withstand a decade's worth of multi-state family voyages is worth treating to some quality parts and Napa know-how. Coolant for the Death Valley trip, wiper blades for the Pacific Northwest, air fresheners for the Southwest chili cook-off. Yeah, with some quality parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep your road warrior running longer, stronger, for many more vacations to come. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
Sports professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the inside look at the trillion-dollar business of sports. Basketball basically over, hockey absolutely over, Major League Baseball heading into its summer season for all of the contenders and the pretenders. We're almost at college football, believe it or not. We'll have Jack Swarbrick, the director of athletics, Notre Dame, talk about football in New England, nationally, across the globe, Notre Dame, college, etc. Really good get this week, so please stay tuned. And also, subscribe to our iTunes feed. Look for us on Stitcher, Google Play, Audio Boom. And if you want the 15 to watch this week, the top 15 issues in sports for this week from the U.S. Open and beyond, CSNNE.com. Chicago, do the same thing from the Chicago perspective. And here we go. Let's look at the top issues this week, but let's not look at them in order. Let's look at them as some of the interesting things that are happening around the globe. And Dateline, the frozen tundra. Well, it's not the frozen tundra anymore. It's 90 degrees in the 2017 U.S. Open. Erin Hills in Wisconsin, about $130 million economic impact, $65 million of that directly in Milwaukee. They'll have about 35,000 fans each day of the tourney, 5,000 volunteers, 2,000 media. And the 2015 PGA at Whistling Straits in Sheboygan up the road, about $102 million. A little more this year. It's the first time the U.S. Open will be held in beer in Bradhappy, Wisconsin. And the USGA predicts about 365,000 12-ounce servings of beer poured and 100,000 sausages served at Erin Hills. The grounds will no doubt be teeming with Packers fans, and not really nice for Chicago and not really nice for the Patriots either. But Ricky Fowler, by the way, sold out, although he's been a lifelong Packer fan. He's going to exchange his regular Oklahoma State bag for green and yellow Packer version. The tie-ins galore as the cameras start rolling. There is no bigger event in American golf. And by the way, the PGA Tour hoping that Dad will help stem its viewership tide. Tour has not seen an increase in final round TV viewership since the Farmers Insurance Open in January. And a growing list of sports properties see a decline in audience this year. Even golf's top moments haven't been immune. Sergio Garcia's playoff triumph down 11% from last year. Siwoo Kim's victory at the Players was the event's lowest final round since 2014. Dustin Johnson's wins in two WGC events also saw final round declines over 16. Well, why is it? Unfamiliar players, the post-Tiger Woods era, marquee players Johnson, Ricky Fowler, and Jordan Spieth all carded some issues that they're improving. They'll get back, but a little bit of a decline right now. And fellow stars, Phil Mickelson, Rory McIlroy, Jason Day, yet to join them winning this year. And while pundits continue to bemoan golf's post-Tiger decline and lack of a true superstar, at least the Tour and its U.S. Open broadcast partner Fox can look forward to a Father's Day broadcast in which a large number of dads choose the couch over the kids, not me. In the meantime, the PGA Championship, by the way, staying on golf, the calendar may be musical chairs ahead of the U.S. Open and acknowledging the partner PGA Tour's flagging TV ratings. PGA of America CEO Pete Bevacqua said in a video released to its 28,000 members last week, the organization's been conducting studies for the past 4 years on whether to move the PGA Championship from August to May. He'll meet with his executive board later this month at Sun River in Oregon, the site of the PGA Club Pro Championship, to give an update. He repeated the motivation for moving the PGA to avoid conflicts every 4 years with Olympic golf. And my take is this. On paper, the Olympic excuse looks plausible. The more likely reason is that no one really wants to go up against the NFL on Sunday, even in the preseason. And that's probably not just the speculative reason, but it is the actual reason. Let's turn to facilities across the globe, and first South Florida. David Beckham moved closer to securing the requisite land to build a stadium for his proposed Miami MLS franchise, which the former England captain hopes to launch by 2021. The Miami-Dade Commission voted 9-4 in favor of approving a $9 million deal to sell Beckham's group, Miami Beckham United, nearly 3 acres of county land in that city's Overtown district. The land currently in use as a county truck depot. It would complete the required 9-acre site for a planned 25,000-seat stadium on the Miami River. Beckham's group already purchased 6 acres of land next to the site at about $19 million, but he'll still need to receive city approval before venue construction can start. By purchasing the last piece of land needed for the privately funded stadium, they're achieving another major milestone on the way to Major League Soccer awarded in Miami, says the MBU statement. And here's my take. Being a lifelong Miamian, Miami Beckham United moves one step closer. The Crosstown Marlins yet to announce a new owner. Let's hope the long-suffering MLB franchise can achieve that before 2021, and the soccer stadium before 2081, or the end of this world as we know it. Shift to Seattle for a facility. It impacts everybody. Oakview Group secured mayoral blessing to remodel Seattle's Key Arena after Seattle Partners, fronted by AEG, withdrew its $521 million rival offer. Seattle Mayor Ed Murray last week officially announced OVG and includes Jerry Bruckheimer and TPG Capital co-founder David Bonderman as partners in the project. Murray said the goal is to complete the Key Arena deal before he leaves office at the end of the year. And the $564 million proposal includes a partnership with concert company Live Nation. And they said, according to the mayor, the design is better, but the best design doesn't automatically mean the best facility. No matter what, Seattle, the only market in the U.S., is top 25 without an NBA or NHL team. And here's my bottom line take. The Live Nation group makes concerts a significant part of their deal, but Gary Bettman, no doubt, is looking at the NBA as a competitor, may want to get in first, just as he did in Vegas. The bottom line is Seattle certainly deserves one winter sports franchise, maybe even 2. It'll be good for everybody in the league, good for Boston, good for Chicago, good for everybody to have yet another strong franchise, which it no doubt would if this deal happens. Let's talk baseball for a minute. We're in the doldrums just as kids are getting out of school. And MLB clubs through this past week were nearly at 30,000 a game, relatively flat compared to the same time frame last year. The Dodgers led all teams in average attendance for 4 straight seasons, once again leading the way this year with 45,000 per game, even though the number is down a little bit. Cardinals, Giants, Cubs, and Blue Jays round out the top 5. The Braves, who opened a new SunTrust Park this season, not surprisingly seeing a 33% increase following 20 seasons at Turner Field. The Indians, MLB's biggest gain in turnstiles, up over 37% at Progressive Field in Kansas City. The Royals have the sharpest drop. The Rays also down 12% to date. The league's lowest average at over 14,000, but just a little bit over that. Their lowest attendance figure since 2005. The Mets and the Diamondbacks seeing double-digit drops as well. And my take is obvious. Look for those numbers to pick up now that it's summer, school's out, fans prepared to vote for their favorite players into the MLB All-Star Game in a month. Red Sox, White Sox, obviously Cubs need no help as well. And that's baseball. Shift for a minute to other kinds of sports, and let's talk about Olympics. We don't have to talk about that for a long time, but we're going to talk about it on a regular basis until stuff gets done. The IOC Executive Board last week finalized the Tokyo Games program. The Olympics governing body added 15 medal events, including doubling mixed-gender events from 9 to 18. 3-on-3 basketball makes its Olympic debut in Tokyo in 2020. I'd take Bill Russell no matter what. Let him stand there. Mixed-gender relays will debut for swimming, track and field, and triathlon. The Tokyo Games, featuring 339 medal events, up from 306 in the Rio Games, and the IOC said the changes are more youthful, urban, and female-focused. And here's my take. Surfing's been on the board as a potential new Olympic sport for some time. Look for its Olympic debut to hold off until the Games likely come to LA in 2024 or 2028. but they all need sponsors. And former USOC sponsor BP, British Petroleum, returned to the American Olympic movement, but in a diminished capacity. They just signed a deal to sponsor 6 U.S. Paralympic teams through 2020. And in the new deal, USOC will get training and travel costs of 6 Paralympic national teams: swimming, track and field, cycling, alpine skiing, Nordic skiing, and snowboarding. BP already sponsors the International Paralympic Committee through 2020. The reworked relationship means energy category open for the USOC, along with commercial banking, beer, hotels, and online brokerages. BP does not get the rights to the Olympic rings or Team USA paraplegic marks in the deal, only the intellectual property of the individual teams. Terms not disclosed, but the new Paralympic team-level sponsorship deals, presumably worth a small fraction of the cost of BP's full-fledged USOC sponsorship, which is more than $3 million annually. And my take's a good one. Of its 26 sponsors for the Rio Games, the USOC successfully renewed 19. Look for that number to increase dramatically if LA gets the nod. Boston, you don't know if you made the right decision or not, but we'll see what happens with LA. Then on the international front, which is also really important to provide some perspective, Forbes has its annual ratings of the 100 highest paid athletes. The top 100 earned a total of $3.1 billion over the last 12 months, a slight decrease from last year's $3.15 billion. Endorsement income declined slightly, down 4% to $887 million this year. Top spot, still Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo, $93 million a year. Before Ronaldo, it was either Tiger or Floyd Mayweather who topped the list, and the elite athlete list comprises players from 11 different sports. Basketball dominates the list, a record 32 players among the top 100. LeBron at number 2 at $86 million. Kevin Durant number 5 at $60. Rounding out the top 5, not basketball, Messi at 3 at $80 million. Roger Federer at 4 at $64 million. 21 countries represented on this year's world highest paid athletes list. Americans the most prevalent at 63. Top golfer, Rory McIlroy at number 6 at 50. He better get better. Forbes numbers include all salaries and bonuses for mid-2016 to middle of this year. And here's my take. Massive TV contracts continue to fuel salaries and overall athlete compensation, but as cord cutting diminishes, TV revenues look for these numbers to plateau or even decline in the coming years. And by the way, we talked about basketball, really important as a high number of endorsers, but the NBA Finals, by the way, were the best watched, especially some of the later games. The first 4 games of Warriors-Cavaliers at the largest rating for any NBA Finals since the coverage of Bulls-Jazz in 1998. In a culture growing more individualistic, the NBA has employed non-restrictive policies on sharing video online and exposing its players' personalities. And the Friday night's dramatic Cavaliers must-win improved deal, at least for a while. And the NBA clearly has a leg up, my take, on the NFL internationally. Global exposure could help drive interest at home. Well, we're looking at the NBA, and we're looking at all of the contexts of what they're doing, but let's turn to football. It's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about college football. And I'm in Oklahoma this week, and they have been shell-shocked by Bob Stoops and his sudden retirement. He was at the helm for 18 years, and the conference announced that its members, at the same time, by the way, shares $348 million from last school year in revenues. 9 of the 10 member schools received $35 million. Baylor's portion, at least, will be withheld until the sex assault scandal can be resolved. The $35 million lags behind what the SEC and Big Ten schools generally receive, but well ahead of the ACC and Pac-12. The Big 12 distribution up from $30 million per school from the 15-16 school year, and, according to the Texas Tech president, without even taking into account the football championship game and ongoing negotiations with Fox and ESPN, the distributions are going to go considerably above $40 million. Meanwhile, Oklahoma President Dave Boren says the announcement should hush speculation about the conference losing members. And my take is this: with the revived football championship and solid TV contracts, the Big 12 should remain on solid financial footing for at least the next decade, but the college sports arms race never stops. Here is an outlier in the arms race. Notre Dame has been in the ACC, but reluctantly, not certainly throwing in all of its sports and only partially in football. And it's time to look at their impact. Clearly, from a Midwest perspective in Chicago, Notre Dame is a big horse with Northwestern and otherwise. And in Boston and New England, they have become New England's team, New England's Catholic team, as they play and recruit all across the globe. Very interesting perspective. Jack Swarbrick, University of Notre Dame graduate, in his 9th year as VP and Director of Athletics, has attached his signature to a variety of new initiatives: media development plan, expansion of Notre Dame Stadium, improving the game day experience for the student athletes and fans. He's a magna cum graduate, of Notre Dame, of course, bachelor's degree in economics. Upon graduating from Stanford University Law School in 1980, associate's degree from the Indianapolis law firm of Baker and Daniels, partner in 87, 28 years with the firm, and then he sold out and went to law. 12th athletics director. He was appointed on July 16, 2008, celebrating his 10-year anniversary next year. Talks about Notre Dame, international college sports, the Power 5 conferences, the future of college football, and everything else. Jack Swarbrick.
Sloan MIT Sports Analytics Conference, we've covered a number of different things, from startups to non-startups, from television to other kind of entities, and there's nobody who does more of that kind of diversity than an athletic director, and an athletic director who has some leverage and credibility in the industry because he's got a wonderful brand, a partner in a law firm for a number of years, an Indiana guy, Stanford Law School. Jack Swarbrick, how's that for a kind of snapshot of what you do and how you do it?
More than I deserve. Thank you. It's great
Clearly
to be
not
with you.
Thank you very much for this. So give us just your top-down assessment of where college athletics is today. Don't have enough time, but let's do it.
Yeah, it's it is in a period of change that is going to continue. It manifests itself in conference realignment, which will be stable for a while now. But we've got big issues with regard to the relationship between the student who's an athlete and the university. We've got commercial rights issues. We've got health and safety issues, whether it's the concussions or other things. So there is so much going on in the industry, and it will continue to change.
For the better?
I think so. Yeah, I think from my perspective, I might accept a little bit of conference realignment because I think we've lost some of the commonality that makes conferences strong. But in other matters, I think the sports are administered in a much safer and healthier way. I think the benefits extended to the students are more and better suited to their needs. I think our fans are better served today than they were. So I feel good about a lot of the changes.
So Power 5, others, the media always pitch the two against each other, not deserved. First of all, are you in a position of, your interests are somewhat aligned, but in many ways very different. Can you take on the informal role of broker, an honest broker between all the conferences? You have a very interesting perspective to bring to the table.
Well, a lot of us play roles in that, but I think it is important to promote the dialogue and make sure we're sharing information and ideas. I have served as the chairman of Lead One, the D1A Athletic Directors Association, for 2 years now, and have tried to use that platform for that. I'm the only AD on the conference, the College Football Playoff Management Committee, so I try and be a liaison to schools that way. So, and I'm not alone in that regard, but I think it's very important to do that.
I guess dialogue is more important than ever, as you said, as college sports and college football goes through a time of unprecedented change.
Oh, it is. It is. and in all directions. We've got to talk to our administrations on campus effectively.
Yeah.
We've got to talk to each other effectively. We've got to keep our students informed and engaged, our coaches, and our fans. The one thing about this job, it has an unusual number of constituents, more so than a professional sports franchise does.
Right, and they come from many different perspectives. At least with a pro sports franchise, there are some commonalities attached to it.
Oh, that's exactly right. I mean,
Right.
There are issues unique to being part of a university. That you have to communicate with faculty and deans and the president of the university. There's no replica of that in pro sports.
So tell us about, from a business perspective, sports business show, international audience, the responsibilities, the athletic director's responsibilities are effectively bottom line, but you're part psychiatrist, part politician, obviously part lawyer. How does it all coalesce?
Well, what's so unique about our jobs is, and in contrast to virtually any other sport enterprise, is we have 26 teams in my case.
Yeah, right.
750 athletes, and male, female, and so you have very different issues across sports and across the various student groups, and that's what creates the biggest challenge, is figuring out how to manage that, how to allocate your resources in support of it, and so you try and do that by having systems that allow you to manage the individual sports effectively, but also communicate across the sports effectively.
How does Notre Dame manage to negotiate so adroitly? Maybe you're always in a different risk position than other people. You stay independent in football. You don't for other conferences. You do have the leverage to be able to set your own terms in some ways. Some people view you as an outlier. Others people view you as an opinion leader. How do you feel about all that?
Well, what Notre Dame stands for and the Notre Dame brand provides that platform for me as a businessman. And it's nothing I'm doing. It's this remarkable university and the brand it's built over time. Football independence is incredibly important to us from a university perspective. From a football perspective, we'd be better off probably competitively being in a conference. But it's used to promote the university.
Right.
So when we play a game in Dublin or in Yankee Stadium or in Fenway Park, that's all about bringing the university to those cities. And it is because of that. It's because we don't look at it through a football prism. We are so committed to that model, and we've been able to do it. And it is unique, but it creates a nice business incubator, right? We're our own little lab because of that independence, and we get to make some interesting decisions.
Let's just pick a geographical distribution area, Reuters International, but we also are doing this for a Boston audience as well. In many ways, Notre Dame is Boston's team. Boston College is Boston's team, but you invade Fenway, and it's your market as well.
It was a remarkable weekend. We love playing in iconic venues, and there aren't many that are more iconic than Fenway Park. And that was a magical weekend for us. We filled the place, a lot of passionate fans supporting us, and that's what we want to do with football. Right? We're in California every year for a game.
Right.
We get to New York about every other year. We'll be in Chicago regularly. Again, it's about promoting the university and using football to do it.
How do you take your brand? You clearly are in Dublin, you're in Ireland, etc. How do you take your brand internationally and stay ahead of other schools and other conferences? I know Larry Scott wants to be China's commissioner as well. So how do you meet the challenge?
Well, I think there are several things you have to do. One is you have to use the university's assets that exist. So we look to where we have campuses and already have a presence, and so that helps. Two, you want to leverage your partners. So in our case, you talk with Under Armour about your strategies for being international and what they're doing. You talk to NBC about international distribution and what they're doing. So we've got great partners, and you have to be really focused on working with them.
Let's talk just a few minutes about issues that affect college football generally. Pay for play, compensation, where is that all going?
Yeah, obviously that's an issue which is at the forefront of the discussion about college athletics today. I think where it's going is we will continue to look for ways to provide appropriate additional benefits to our students. for me, the focus ought to be, how can we maintain the relationship as one of being between student and university, not employer-employee, but provide appropriate benefits for the student athletes? So my measure of that is to look at the questions we face and say, how do we resolve this for a student who's not an athlete, and how do we for a student who is an athlete? And we got to be very careful about drawing distinctions there. And so, for example, the student who's not an athlete can exploit their name, image, or likeness, right? They can, if they're a musician, they can go to the club and play or give a music lesson. Well, how can we provide comparable opportunities to students who are athletes without changing the model, without turning them into somebody who's not a student? And I think those are the sorts of things we have to figure out going forward.
Has the train left the station because the lawyers, the litigators are getting in the middle of that too? Is there an opportunity for some reasonable compromise?
There's still an opportunity, but we better take on the issues, right? Or they will be dictated to us. I think
because as a lawyer, we know what lawyers can do to deal.
Exactly. We had a good example with the cost of attendance, right? That was a decision that if you tried to treat students equally, whether they were athletes or not, you never would have adopted the rule. Right. It was an antitrust case waiting to happen. We got to be smarter than that. We got to look at these things and get out in front of these issues, or they'll get dictated to us.
You have resources, but yet I suspect one of the things that we all are a little bit worried about, broadly defined, the recruiting war for high school players becoming college players because they get more benefits and emoluments than others. How do you deal with all of those issues and yet acknowledge that there are certain cost of attendance issues as well? Are there ways to deal with that issue?
Well, yes. I mean, we can. I'm confident we can. On the recruiting front, we have two unique problems. One is competitive forces are driving the recruitment younger and younger and younger. It's not good for the youngster, and it's not good for the university. Talking to a 15-year-old about where they're going to go to college isn't helpful. Right.
But it happens all the time.
It's the norm, right? Especially in the Olympic sports.
Right.
And so we've got to get our arms around that. The other really unique business dynamic for us is, by rule, we can't talk publicly about those students, those prospective students, or the process, right? We can't comment on a prospective student athlete. So we've taken an area of great interest to our fans and transferred it over to third parties who build whole businesses about reporting on that.
Right.
I think we have to think about that.
College football playoff, the rumor is that we're going to have 72 teams in the playoffs, and the first 14 get byes in the first round. Where's that going?
That'd be interesting. There is zero momentum right now for expanding it. We're really pleased with how it works, what the model's been, the value it provides to fans, the interest in who gets in and who doesn't get in. It maintains value at the conference championships, which is great. It keeps value in the other bowl games. I think it took us 3 years, but we got to the right model, and there's no interest in changing it.
College basketball playoff, right number of teams. We're starting March Madness right now. It's going to grip the country. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you look at the teams on the bubble, it's a great process. They do a marvelous job. But I wouldn't want to go any deeper, right? I mean, it's you don't want to get where you've got teams that didn't have successful seasons still earning a seat in the playoff.
As a Northwestern undergrad, I heard that if they didn't make the playoffs, the March Madness this year, there was going to be a special automatic dispensation just to make sure they got in somewhere.
Listen, if they weren't in already after that Michigan game, my goodness, that was such a spectacular ending.
Good for basketball, right?
It is great for basketball. It's great for Northwestern and my good friend Jim Phillips there. They are doing a great job across their sports.
Yeah, clearly. Title IX, impact on women's sports, it's a balancing act for you, clearly.
It is.
And the non-revenue producing sports, let's call them, and how you have to deal with them every day.
Yeah, it is. Now it's a good problem to have. I think the impact of Title IX in American sports has been phenomenal. It's been great. But you have to balance it. And the key to the balance is the experience the same for the student, right? Are you providing similar resources? Are they having the same opportunities? And I'm really proud of our ability to do that. We have great success in our women's sports. Our women's basketball team has, been in 5 Final Fours in the past 8 years. Women's soccer national championship, women's fencing program, lacrosse competes for the national championship. So it's a good problem to have.
You've been at this for a long time. What is the most surprising thing that you didn't anticipate when you first took this job that's happened to you or happening as part of this process?
The impact of social media. Now, part of it is I came into this job as it was in ascent, so I'm sort of growing with it a little bit. But it's very challenging for us because things are said about our students that are simply not true. Yeah. Some cases are slanderous, mean-spirited. And we don't have an effective way to deal with that.
Does it help you that it's an issue that the whole world has to deal with? Not just Notre Dame?
Exactly. No, right. The entire world, and it's certainly not limited to sports. Our political arena is poisoned with it right now. Yeah. But it's I just feel different because I'm dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, and just because someone has a talent and they exercise that talent in college as a football or basketball player shouldn't make them open game.
Right. And the flip side is, do your coaches do a good enough job in your estimation of monitoring or incentivizing your athletes to behave to a certain standard relative to social media, or should it be the coaches?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, they pay attention to it. I pay attention to it. But I want our students or athletes to have the same freedom as our other students do.
Well put.
And I don't want special rules for them on social media. We educate them a lot. We talk to them about the risks. We show them examples of bad behavior. But frankly, I'm very comfortable with their behavior. It's the people talking about them that I'm not comfortable with.
I think so. What does Jack Swarbrick do 5 years from now, and what's the program look like? And are they 2 different intersections? Are you out doing something else, or what?
I hope I'm at a beach somewhere. I think the program will remain much as it is now. There'll be changes in the industry for sure, but a well-rounded program, 26 sports, great students who represent Notre Dame well, and a high level of competitive success. The challenges of maintaining competitive success will grow, but I think our fan base is passionate about it, and our university understands the benefit of it.
So as a lawyer who actually does some teaching and have the benefits of knowing Ray Anderson, Fred Glasson, I think there are way too many lawyers as athletic directors. What do you think?
Those other guys shouldn't be in the business. No, Fred and I were partners.
Yeah, I realize. Yeah. And by the way, he's Indiana, so they were partners in the same law firm, and they've taken over between. I don't know about Purdue and others, but Purdue, there's a politician involved in the entire world. But between Fred at Indiana and that man at Notre Dame, they've taken over athletics as far as Indiana's.
Well, when the Purdue job opened up recently. Yeah. All the Fagery, Baker, and Daniels lawyers were putting their resumes together because they thought they'd be
part
next.
Of the condition of the job.
That's right.
Interesting. Thank you, Jack.
My pleasure.
Thank you very
Great
much.
to be with you.
Really appreciate it.
We'd like to thank Jack Swarbrick and his folks for making the interview possible. We'd like to thank the guys at Sloan MIT for allowing us to probe so deeply into their work. College football, clearly important, but all of the issues we talked about are really important today. And if you want to see the whole list, csnne.com, and in Chicago, do the same thing on your website. Also, subscribe to our iTunes feed. Look for us on Stitcher, Google Play, and Audio Boom. Next week, a special edition with some of the best interviews in the business. I'd like to thank Jason Levine and Tanner Simpkins for putting this together as they do every week. And again, I'd like to thank you for watching and listening, and join us next week when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.
Napa know how.
Napa guy knows that by the foot, there's no better ride than an old station wagon. Room for 6 people facing forward, 2 people facing backward, and a whole lot of luggage, lumber, and bicycles haphazardly strapped to the roof. If you can parallel park that beast, you can park anything. And with some quality parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep your land ship running longer, stronger. It's not obsolete. It's a rare treasure. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know